Hello Vault Heads, this is the self-proclaimed, sarcastically named Captain KeyForge, also known as PJ Broughton of the Steel City Snufflegators. Welcome to the latest episode of Captain's Commpod. Thank you for joining me, appreciate it. Today we are going to talk about the history of Unforge and the card that was too good for KeyForge, that Ghost Galaxy took out of the game before it actually made the game and before the cards were published due to concerns from playtesters and designers. And I don't blame them, but that's what we'll get to at the end. So first of all, we'll talk about Unforge. So there have been 4 cards in the whole of KeyForge, every expansion, that unforge an opponent's key. Okay, they've been predominantly in this. They've mainly been actions, although one of them's a creature. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through them one at a time in order of their release, so which set they came out, the good things about them, the bad things about them, and then why I think the new one was overpowered. So the first one was from Call the Archons. It was a dis action with 1 point of amber, and it was called Keyhammer. And it says, play. If your opponent forged a key on their previous turn, unforge it. Your opponent gains 6 amber. Okay, so first of all, it's conditional. If they haven't forged a key on the previous turn, it will never work. I don't think that was necessary. It could have been just play, unforge a key, your opponent gains. If you unforge a key this way, your opponent gains 6 amber, because that's another problem with it. If they haven't unforged a key, you can't play it for the amber pip unless you've got some way to get the amber, because you still have to give them 6 amber when you play this card, whether or not you unforge a key. So probably the worst of the 3. I can see what they're getting at, and I think it's underpowered, if anything. I think it ought to say, play, unforge an opponent's key. If you do this, that player gains 6 amber. And then a point of amber, because then if there's no key to unforge, you just get the amber pip. Jobs are gooder. So to me, I didn't have much of a problem with it. On its own, it's a little bit underpowered, if anything, in isolation. There are some other cards it works well with, so like Lash of Broken Dreams, you can give them the 6 back and stop them forging, or you can give them 6 back and end up them forging for 9, right? So sort of make them lose 3. But there's not a lot of net gain on this other than the whole setting them back 1 turn. And that's predominantly what it's meant for. But I would have had no problem if that just said unforge an opponent's key. It's not at all busted. It's perfectly fair. You just have to be careful how you play it. That brings us all the way to Mass Mutation. Okay. The first one in Mass Mutation, because there's 2, was again a discard, and it was called Break Key. It was an action with 1 point of amber. If your opponent has more forged keys than you, unforge an opponent's key, and if you have unforged an opponent's key, your opponent gains 6. So they rectified the problem with Keyhammer in that you can play this, you can gain the amber, and your opponent won't get 6 back unless you actually unforge one of their keys. This one I like, although again, when you compare it to a couple of the other ones later on, again, I really don't think it needs the condition. If your opponent has more forged keys than you, that's a better condition than the other one. But still, if it's 2-all, this isn't going to work. If it's 1-all, if you've got more than them, it's not going to work. And again, it's not like it's utterly busted. All it really does is sort of miasma them in terms of it sets them back a turn, because you unforge it, and unless you've got ways around it, they're just going to forge it again on the very next turn. So unless you've got, like I said, the Lash of Broken Dreams or some kind of amber control card, they are, in a lot of cases, just going to forge it again on the next turn. So I don't like the condition. I just don't think it's necessary. No problems with the card. If anything, only a smidge slightly underpowered. To get any real good value out of it, you probably need another 1 or 2 cards to make it work. But it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. Not too good, not too bad. Not exactly broken. And that was number 2. So then that will bring me on to card number 3, which is a creature. 2 power, trait demon, turnkey. play unforge an opponent's key. And then it is, if turn key leaves play, your opponent forges a key at no cost. And it's if turn key leaves play in any way, shape or form, destroyed, returned to hand, purged, archived, any way you can get it out of the game. And you can do all of those things to creatures on the board. You can archive an opponent's creature, you can purge an opponent's creature from play, obviously you can destroy it, you can return it to hand, you can shuffle it back into the deck. Any of those mechanics will take this off the board, and then the person who lost the key reforges it, because it does say unforge an opponent's key. I think they're trying to word that so that if you exile this to them, you then don't gain a key when it leaves play. So again, careful wording there. This one I prefer to the other two just because you play it, it works. You wouldn't want to play this if they have no key. I wouldn't. It might be worth avoiding, but yeah, I certainly like it. It's better than the other ones. It's a quick way to go, right, you can't win the game if you're on 2 keys because I've just took one of your keys away, and now you've got to deal with this creature as well as earning your next key before you can win the game. So yet another one that I think is not broken. It's fine, fun to play with, not a problem when I see it across from me, not a problem when I see it in my decks, because we all have cards that we don't want to see across from us or in our own decks. But yeah, not a bad one. So that was Mass Mutation. That is 3 out of 4. The next one is from Dark Tidings. Okay, and it is an action card called Groundbreaking Discovery with an amber pip, and it says play if you control Dr. Verocta, Roof Laboratory, and Reckless Experimentation. Unforge an opponent's key, destroy each creature and artifact. So obviously this is part of a set, and it does obviously come with all 4 of those cards, in case you didn't already know and you haven't played with it. I've played with this a lot. I got 3 Dark Tidings decks with this set of cards, and I've played a deck with this card in over 100 times. The second one of the set is Rooftop Laboratory, and it says each friendly scientist creature enters play ready. So the way you make this combo work is by playing Groundbreaking Discovery and storing it in your discard pile as an archive, unless your opponent's got Creeping Oblivion or Infernus that can purge it out of your discard. But ideally, you want to play Groundbreaking Discovery and put it into your discard. You want to play Rooftop Laboratory if they can't destroy your artifact. Then you've got the creature Dr. Verocta, Power 2, Human Scientist Elusive Reap, put an upgrade or action card from your discard pile on top of your deck. If Rooftop Lab's in play, or if you play it before you play Dr. Verocta will come in ready. So with his ability, you can reap with him, and you can put an action card from your discard pile on top of your deck. So with him, you'd be able to put Groundbreaking Discovery as the top card of your deck. But then there's also the 4th card, which is an upgrade, Reckless Experimentation, Amber Pip. This creature gains reap, play the top card of your deck. So the idea is, over the course of going through your deck, you play Groundbreaking Discovery and archive it in your discard pile. You get Rooftop Lab down if they can't destroy your artifact, or you chain yourself, or get it in archive, do something with it, and then you play Dr. Verocta, Reckless Experimentation, reap with it, and that puts Groundbreaking Discovery to the top of your deck and plays it, and then you've got all 4 in play, and it wipes the board and unforges an opponent's key. This one is a little bit strong. There's a lot of moving parts with it. Obviously, sometimes it's going to be really easy that you just happen to drop the right 4 cards at the right time and you break an opponent's key. There will be times, even in the worst deck in the world with these 4 cards, where you'll just fluke it and get it off. In a deck with any sort of chosen archiving, so Forgive and Forget, Edai, Mobius Scroll, Binary Moray, Knowledge is Power, Ruins of Arconis. These are all the selective archiving cards from Dark Tidings. Anything like that that lets you put one of these cards in archive and it gets a little bit good. For me, the key cards out of it are the artifact, the artifact and the upgrade. I mean, one of the decks I've got it in, I've got a Witch of the Eye, so I can get Dr. Verocta back if you destroy it. Dr. Verocta gets the action card back anyway. The ones that are hard for me to get back if you get rid of them are the artifact and the upgrade. And even the upgrade, Varrock can put it on top of his deck, and if you've got something like a P-Ice weapon that will come in ready thanks to Rooftop Lab, you can reap with that and draw the upgrade. So yeah, the key to beating it is the Rooftop Lab. I don't think it's quite busted, but it's certainly strong if you know how to play it. And that's going to bring us on to the card, which is too good for KeyForge. So on October the 27th, 2022, Ghost Galaxy put an article on their website called "The Winds of Change Brings the Spoils Again." It had a few rules changes mentioned within it, such as the reap becoming after reap and fight becoming after fight. But there was a key part of that article that referred to this card, and it says the card that didn't survive. Art Project was an Equidon action card that unforged an opponent's key. The card made a brief appearance in our Gen Con preview video. This was a controversial card amongst the playtesters, and we discussed many possible revisions, but we never settled on a version of the ability that felt good. In the end, Ghost Galaxy decided to cut the card from Winds of Exchange. All is not lost though. Art Project may be revisited in a future set. Okay. At the time, I looked at it and I thought it was busted. It's no longer on Archon Arcana, but I've got a picture of it from when it was, because yeah, I thought it was busted as well, and I took a picture of it and sent it to one of my teammates and said, look at the state of this. And it said, unforge an opponent's key, purge Art Project, and your opponent archives the top 6 cards of their deck. Okay. I just think that, so let's compare it to the others, right? 3 out of the other 4 had a condition. One of them they had to have forged on the last turn. One of them they had to have more forged than you, or the other one you had to have 3 other cards in play to make it work. Out of the 4 of them, 3 of them gave you the key back, essentially. One of them gave you 6 amber back, another one gave you 6 amber back. The other one, when it left play, gave you the key. The only one that didn't give you an amber's worth of key back or the key is the groundbreaking discovery one, where you have to jump through all the hoops of having the 4 cards in play to make it trigger. And also, when you play that, you wipe the board, including all your own creatures, all your own artifacts and stuff like that. So there is a bit of a negative effect on the person who plays it, because it resets everything for both of you, apart from anything that's warded, obviously. But so there's no condition. Play, bang, you've lost a key. That's it. I just play it, you've lost a key. You don't get any ammo back. You don't get a key back later if it leaves play or anything like that. And then I archive the top 6 cards in my deck. I mean, also as well, that's not exactly brilliant. The top 6 cards, they could be 2, 2, and 2, or it could be 3, 1, and 1. You're even messing up the archives. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen this in every deck I ever got, because it's so good. And I also think that the trade for the opponent is nowhere near good enough. I understand that the concept of Equidon is that they're a house of traders, but they're always on the good side of the trade. So there's a lot of Equidon cards that are idea of play this card, your opponent gets 1 but you get 2, or your opponent gets 1 and you get 3, or you are always on the better side of the deal. That's Equidon's shtick. I get it. This was too good though. So to be fair, I applaud Ghost Galaxy for that one, because I do like cards that unforge keys. I think there's a place for them in the game, but they do have to be really careful that they don't design them too OP. I've got no problem with them going off easy, as long as the counterbalance to that is the opponent getting something really good. And a mishmash of 6 cards put into their archive, for me, isn't enough. So yeah, that is the history of Unforge, and also the card that was too good for Winds of Exchange. So what do you think? Do you think I'm being generous and you don't want any Unforge cards in the game? Do you think they're all too easy? Do you think they're all bad and and not good enough, and you don't get a big enough benefit out of them? Happy to hear all the opinions. I'm on a few Discords, I've got email, I've got Twitter. So yeah, let me know what you think. Love to hear it. Tomorrow or Saturday the 4th of March, depending on when you're listening to this, I'm going to play a Soulforge Fusion welcome launch event. So I'm thinking that next week Captain's Commpod is going to be what I would like to see in the game of KeyForge. I already have quite a few things on a list that I'd like to see in the game of KeyForge, so I'm going to make a podcast about those things, and also as well the things that I learned from SoulForge that might be useful in KeyForge, either as lessons to learn or gameplay mechanics that could be good fun. So that's what you're going to get next week. Thank you for staying with me all the way through to the end of another Captain's Commpod. I appreciate it very much, and as ever, may the forge be with you.